What is going on, Misfits? Yes, we are back with another edition of Logician Tim Learns with me, your host, Logician Tim. That's right. This is where you get to watch me go from a total gaming newbie to a
What is going on, Misfits?
Whoa!
Yes.
Why's my stuff all up? That's weird. Oh, I know why. I didn't mute my video. How'd that work?
What is going on, Misfits?
Look, I got it here too. What the crap are you doing, Tim? I love it when it starts off like these. They're so crazy. Hold on. I got to get everything turned down because I gotta like preview everything. All right. Now, where were we? There we go. What is up, Joe? And Angela, if you're watching, hello. Michael, Scott, Jesse, what is going on? Jacob, Mitchell, good to see you. Good to see you. Jesse, yeah, man, it's been a while. You finally get to see me live this time. That's right. All right, so I got my phone put away. I got my volume turned down on my computer so I don't have it all like echoing through everywhere. All right, let's start over, right? This is where you get to watch me go from a total gaming newbie to a streaming newbie. That's what you get to see here. That's what you get to see. Hey, we're back, and we're going to do some more of this Awaken RPG, and it's we're getting to the end, and we're going to go over the GM guide tonight and kind of talk about what they have in store for us in that GM tips and tricks section. I always like to peruse through there because you can find some good nuggets in the GM guide a lot of times. Scott says, I'm watching you from the elliptical. Man, get on that thing, man. Get on it. The more you do on the elliptical, the more like crappy food I can make you eat later. So yeah, do that. Stereo. Yes, Mike. Yeah, that's right. So yeah, well, let's bust into this GM guide. The book's been pretty cool so far. I got to admit, it's been pretty cool. Their Kickstarter just ended today. They were funded. They did $10,000, over $10,000, like $10,400 or something like that. So they did fund, and I'm kind of looking forward to that book coming in. I don't back stuff on Kickstarter very often, so it's kind of cool. Hello from us. Yes. I'm sweating to Timbo. Lots of peeps in here today. Yeah, man, you're right. You're right. So let's jump into this book, and let me show you this real quick. This is like the narrator chapter or whatever, but I wanted to show you just the art up close a little bit. This is the type of stuff that you can look forward to in the Awaken RPG. The artwork is just amazing. It really, really is. This was one of the last pictures from last chapter. And then if you scroll a little bit, you can see this like badass guy. This is right here in the book, a full page, like, I don't know, mad as shit looking guy, right? So, and then we kind of get into the chapter. So I just want to show you the artwork up close first because it's just too cool. So, yeah. Lots of peeps. Mike says, Logician Tim will motivate you. Wait, I think a new Hell at motivation is called for. Yeah, the Logician Tim. Jacob says, that's based on me, by the way. There you go. Danny, what is up, my dude? It better include a sweatband. The mad as shit looking guy. Oh, that's based on you, Jacob. Okay, gotcha. It kind of looks like you in a way, right? Like, I think if you were like really pissed off at a game, that would be you. I could see that. I could see that. All right, let's get into it. So tonight we're going to be going over the GM guide, and I'm out of focus. What is going on with my stream, guys? Look at me. I'm out of, what? Okay, work. All right, there we go. All right, so everything's going nuts, right? Should I just like quit? Should I just end the stream? Nah, we'll get through it, man. All right, so in the Awaken RPG, you are not called a GM like you are in other games. You are called a narrator, okay? It makes me think of like Navigator. Remember the show, that movie Navigator? That was a badass movie. Anyway, in this, you're called a narrator. And so I think they call it this because they really want to drive home the fact that Awaken is a story or a narrative-driven RPG. And it seems to be the kind of the popular thing nowadays is to be more narrative-driven than combat. Beer goggles, you just went up 3 points. So as a narrator in Awaken or a GM, it's your job to tell the story to the players, just like in every other RPG. And I kind of like this line that they put in here in the book. It says, your players may leave for the night, but the vivid descriptions and amused smile will stay with them, sometimes even long after they fall asleep. So I don't know who really smiles in their sleep. Like after you go to sleep, you keep smiling. But I get what they're saying here. You know, the adventures and the stories that RPGs allow you to experience with your friends are going to last forever, right? And I kind of equate this to people making movie references, right? Me and Scott do this all the time. These are these experiences that people have had either together or apart in the movie reference, and they quote those events or the lines from these movies, and kind of as a way of recalling those experiences kind of in a shared fashion that builds the relationship and makes it even stronger. It's almost like saying, yeah, I remember that too. Oh yeah, you remember when this happened. And I kind of feel like playing an RPG can lead to the same type of experiences where you're going to talk about them and joke about them for years to come. So I think it's kind of cool. You can't see us. So yeah, I just think it's neat that they do that, and that they kind of talk about that an experience that you're going to have, and you're going to be sharing that with your friends, and there's going to be stories told for years to come. I think that's the big deal with it, right? It's not running the perfect campaign or beating the boss and getting the loot. Yeah, I mean some of those things, but it's really just the stories that you're going to tell about, for the years and years to come. So anyway, that's one of the first things they tell us in here. And then they tell us to, prepare your game, right? And so you don't have to write out, every aspect of your saga or your campaign beforehand from start to finish. It's really better, they tell us, just to have a general outline of the story that you're trying to tell. And this way, when it gets derailed by your players, it's going to happen, you can make quick adjustments to your outline and just keep going, right? Just keep going. One of the things that they tell us also is, the old narrator versus the players, or GM versus the players bit. And this is honestly a common subject brought up in a lot of the RPGs that I've read. I've not experienced it personally, but apparently it happens more than I know, because it seems like this is addressed in almost every RPG that I read in the GM guide section. The GM, or the narrator in this case, is not the enemy of the people, of the players, right? Not the enemy of the players. If a GM wants to kill the players, it seems like they could do that like in the first round, right? And if they really want to do that, if the GM wants to kill the players, just like, hey, you walk into a bar and boom, you're all dead. Like, they have the power to do that. But what fun is that? I don't get it. The narrator needs to make things challenging for the players, which, because if it's challenging, it's going to be the most rewarding too. If it's not challenging enough, it's not going to be as rewarding, right? But they need to keep the difficulty level, appropriate with the players and the character's level and the skills, so that the players don't get frustrated, right? If I'm a narrator or a GM and I've spent all this time, hours and hours, writing a campaign and making NPCs and, all these things, the last thing I want to do is kill off all my players, right? If there are no players left, then I can't finish telling the story. So yeah, I think it's pretty common sense, but I guess it's not, because it's mentioned in almost every RPG that I've seen. So anyway, if it's worth reading every time, I guess it's worth mentioning every time, right? What is up, Jay? What is up, my dude? Good to see you. So, and then next they talk about the story is about the players. And so the game is really about the players. And I don't see this written a whole lot in RPGs, but it always kind of seems to be something that's implied, but not necessarily written. The story is about the players. And when you're making your campaign, you should have their character sheets of all your players with their backgrounds in front of you, right? And this way that you can weave the story around those players, making it easier for them just to kind of step in and role play their character, inside of your story that you've made, right? And so, if one of your players was a farmhand back in the day, and then eventually they turned into a Vasali, the awakened badasses they are. But let's say back before that, they were a farmhand, and maybe their sister was killed off by one of the Vargans, one of the bad guys, during a raid on their farm or something like that. Well, this should tell you it might be cool to throw in a little revenge type story, right? So that the player can be motivated to use that as part of their background in the game, right? And so I just think things like that you need to kind of keep in mind when you're creating your story, right? And another issue that they brought up, and I think it's worth mentioning, is to not overdo your NPCs, right? I think it's fun for GMs or narrators in this case to make, badass NPCs that maybe fight along with the characters and help the players, but at the same time, it can also overshadow the players and kind of make them feel like they're not really part of the game. And, if that NPC is just overpowered and they just jump in and kill everything before you get a chance to cast a spell, well, it's just overpowered, and that's just no fun for the player, right? No fun for the player. Why am I even playing if this NPC just, kills everything, right? Michael says, you've obviously never crushed someone's will to live. There can be quite a bit of enjoyment in that kind of thing. Oh my God. You're probably right, Michael. I bet people get off on that. Jesse says, I would bet $1,000 Timbo's would make an incredible GM. I'll take that bet, Jesse, because I guarantee I won't. I can figure it out, right? I could run it good enough. I guarantee you. I don't think I would make incredible, though. I don't know. I'm a bit creative, but I don't know how good I am, like, on the fly. I don't know. I think it'd just be fun. I think I could keep the right spirit about it, right? Because I think I have the right spirit about GM a game and kind of what's important at the bottom of it all. And that's kind of where we're going to next is it talks about the rules just being a guide, right? And this really goes for any game, in my opinion. I don't care what type of game it is. Once you buy the game, it's yours, right? You can do with it whatever you want. I haven't played a whole lot of games, but I've yet to be playing a game where the designer just busts open the doors and yells at me and tells me that I can't play the game that way because that's not how the rules are written. That's never happened to me. And if it did, I'd probably laugh at their face. I wouldn't care, right? It's my game. I bought it. It's mine. I can play it however I want, right? Well, the rules, are just a guide, and it's there to help you and your friends play a game, right? Play a game. And I always say, look, as long as everybody agrees to it, do whatever the hell you want, right? The only rule that I go by is that a game is supposed to be fun. And if anything, including rules, impedes having fun, then change it, get rid of it. I want to have fun. I'm spending my time with my friends trying to enjoy myself, and whatever is getting in the way of that needs to be removed. If it's a rule and we all agree upon it, get rid of it. That's the way I look at it. So I guess the book didn't go into that much detail, but I kind of went on my soapbox there, and I think we're all adults and we can choose to do what we want to with our games. And so yeah, take a rule out if it's in the way. So anyways, I just wanted to go into that for just a minute. And I talk a little bit about like inspiration, like what can you do when you're making your campaign to find inspiration? And, some of these things I kind of share with you a little bit already, but, asking yourself what would happen a lot. I think that's a good way to do it. Michael says, that's playground rules. It's my game. It's my game, my rules, or I'm taking it home. Yeah, exactly, dude. Exactly. If it's my game, hey, you're going to have to deal with this. But I'm not saying break the rules and cheat or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Like if we're all saying, hey, 3 successes is too much on this for this type of role, and everybody agrees, and, change it. Let's make it 2 from now on, or whatever it may be, right? Or I think, it'd be awesome if we all rolled 6s, and that would mean that, I don't know, I get a flaming sword or something. Like if that's what everybody agrees upon, then go with it. I don't care. I really don't. I think it's just fun to see where things take you. And so I think it'd just be cool. So yeah, inspiration. So when you're thinking about your campaign or your scenario or whatever, your saga, as they call it in here, well, it's good to kind of ask yourself, what would happen? Like, what would happen if, what would happen if, I was a farmhand and the owner of the land I was working was a complete and total tool and used to beat me and, whatever. He was horrible to people and whatever. What would happen if I became a Vasali and now I have this power and I could stop him from hurting other people? Like, would they go back? So start kind of thinking along those lines of what if, what if some type of evil, whatever person took over this order that I was in, this organization that I was in, and was trying to drive it into a horrible direction. Like, what could I do? And so when you start asking yourself, what would happen if, then that's going to start giving you some ideas when you're starting to build your campaign. And I think that's just a good question to ask yourself all the time. And they give a lot of stuff here about the orders, and the Vasali themselves they're volatile creatures, and so they kind of change over time a little bit. There was something else I was going to show you. Yeah, they talk about just like there's you can always kind of go back to the kind of bread and butter, and I kind of call this like your level 1 days, right? Where you're kind of like killing rats, like an EverQuest or an MMO, right? You're killing rats. Well, there's always reports of the deadly, rabid coyote or whatever, right? Roaming the woods, and eating people's chickens or whatever, right? You can always find something like that, and then scale that up, right? So if you're level 5 now and you're a badass, well, level that idea up to, there's this weird being, out in the woods and it keeps killing, kids in the neighborhood or whatever. What are you going to do about it, right? And start writing your campaign just, around that, and then start branching off for possible things that your group can do after they've kind of completed that task. What's the next step, right? Michael says, not only what if, but I'll get it out. Not only what if, but doing that in the mindset of the character you're portraying. Yes. And doing that in the mindset of your character you're portraying is for sure, is important for sure. So, then they talk about a little bit about, Vargan sightings. Now the Vargan in the book, I haven't gone over much. There's a chapter actually, about the Vargan in here. That's kind of cool. These are like the enemy of the humans, basically. There's these weird creatures. So there's been like wars and stuff. They look pretty cool. What page is that? 172. Let's see if it's in here. 172. Yeah, let me show you this. So, I mean, they look pretty cool. These cool looking creatures. And so you can always tell a story about, Vargans attacking and stuff like that. There's plenty of stuff in this world for you to kind of start writing your own stories around. There's plenty of stuff and then you start throwing in the supernatural stuff like the Vargan and all types of stuff. Then you've got plenty of material to start writing stuff. And I think it's just being a little bit creative, like letting your mind fly a little bit, right? And, if you've seen movies before, you're watching movies, you think about, okay, well, I remember this one movie, I don't know, the one-legged man or one-armed man, whatever that was, right? Well, how'd that kind of turn out? How did that play out? And you kind of think about things like that when you're designing your campaign, and that's going to help you kind of get through it. Let me go back to my book. So, I think that's pretty much it. They kind of go through like setting the stage, and they just kind of give us some stuff. I don't really want to say much about the stuff that they give us here about possible campaigns and stuff, because if somebody is watching this and wants to use it, I think it would kind of be a little bit spoilery, because they have like 5 or 6 different little miniature, not really campaigns, but just some little ideas that you could use. And I don't think it'd be wise to share those out, but running the game. This is kind of back to, just doing the attribute and skill checks that we talked about before. The difficulty levels, setting the difficulty levels, that's all the same that we went over. How to handle combat's the same. Now, this is interesting. The dice they talk about in here, that apparently they had some custom dice made, because they talk about that in this book where in this game, numbers 5 and 6 are considered a success on a D6. And then a 1 can be considered a dramatic failure, right? So if you don't have any successes and you get a 1, at least 1 or more 1s on one of your dice, then that's a dramatic failure. So something bad's going to happen. So what they did is they had dice where the 5 and the 6 had like a symbol on them, and then the 1 has like an X or something on them, and the rest of the numbers were just blank. And so that'd make it real quick for you to see if they're blank, you don't have to worry about it, or if they have the symbol on it, then it was a success, right? So apparently they had that. And then they had black and white dice as well, so that when you're attacking or defending, you can kind of put all your dice together and say, okay, my attack dice are white and my defending dice are black, or vice versa. And so you can roll them all at the same time and quickly see which dice were which, right? One thing I like about the game is the organization of the story into scenes. Yes. Yeah, Jacob, it's pretty neat. I got to admit, I really liked it. The writing in it, especially the lore at the very beginning. But I do have to say, I've got to beat it up just a little bit. The GM chapter that I'm on right now, and I was going to get to this, is it wasn't edited. So it was obviously written with and I don't know, I know the designers are in Croatia, and this is no bash on anybody that's English second language at all, because they're speaking more than one language. This is a lot more than I can do, but there was a whole lot of broken English in this one chapter, not the rest of the book, just this one chapter. There was a lot of broken English in it, very easily correctable stuff. And it was, it was every paragraph. It wasn't like just one here or there. It was every paragraph. So I do have to kind of bust them up a little bit for that. It needed one more, just let an editor look over it one more time. And because it made it a little bit difficult to read, because you're trying to kind of figure out what they're saying in some aspects. And but yeah, I don't know if that one just got thrown in there towards the end, or the editor skipped it or what. But it needed one more pass in editing, just to be fair. But it is a great book, so I'm not going to hold anything against them at all. So now my nose is running. Sorry, guys. I wish that came more naturally for me, the whole role playing aspect. Yeah, I mean, I think it would, Jesse. I think once you jumped in and like you were just playing, I think you would kind of feed off the other people that are playing, and I think you would get it right away. It's not that big a deal. It's really not. Yeah, they kind of talk about items a little bit, what they cost, what they're made out of. That's all. We covered a lot of that stuff. Character advancement. Now, the way that you advance in this game, they talk about this very, very briefly, and to me, it should have been a whole chapter. Or at least, a big section. The way that you advance your skills in your game is that on the character sheet, there are boxes next to the skills. And every time you perform a skill check and it's successful, you get to put a check mark in it. Once you get all those boxes filled, then you go up. And, we were kind of talking about doing this in a game that we're working on. And I really like the idea of it. I would like to see it just a little bit better explained in here, because it really only touched on it. I'm talking about like a sentence, and that was it. I think it was touched on one or two other times, like literally one sentence, and they really don't describe it very well. And I think it needs to be, written out, because it's a cool idea. The other way that you can get experience, you can advance your character, is by using getting awarded experience points, right? And this is kind of pretty standard for most role playing games. At the end of your session or whatever, then the GM or the narrator in this case is going to give you some experience points. And so if you did, they say typically from 1 to 3 experience points. Okay. So if you did extremely well on something, you did something badass, well, they might give you 2 or something like that. And then at the completion of, like, say, your saga or your story, you'd give out maybe 3 of them. And what you can do is you kind of save up these experience points, and then you can spend them towards getting, new attributes or new skills or specializations or ranks in your gifts, which are kind of like your spells, unlocking new gifts, gift trees and stuff like that. And they have a little chart for us right here, but to be honest with you, let's see here. It's a little bit expensive. It seems like it would be a little bit expensive, because they're like, an attribute point is 20 experience points. And if you're only getting 1 to 3 points per session, I mean, that's a lot, right? That's a lot of sessions, for before you can get one attribute skill up. So that, it seems like a lot, but maybe it's not. I don't know. It just seems like it might be a little bit a lot for me, but that's why I mentioned it, because I played with people who slip in and out of character. It's definitely like theater and entering a character. It's easier when you don't break character and go back and forth from first person to narrative. Yeah. Yeah, I guess that would be a problem. I mean, 'cause you're constantly going back and forth from, character to out of character, character to out of character. And it does kind of break the immersion a little bit when you come out of character. But yeah, I understand. But anyways, I think that's about all I was gonna go over. Let me see. Yeah, I think that was it. I mean, like I said, they do have this chapter on the Vargan. This like the Vargan Codex is what it's called. It's kind of cool. It's totally different design, like different color paper, which I actually really like. Just neat. And then they have stuff on the antagonists. It's almost like a bestiary or bestiary, however you say that. How do you say it, guys? Do you say it bestiary or bestiary? I don't know. I always say bestiary because I'm thinking of like a beast. So anyways, they have some stuff already built in here for you about different creatures and stuff that you can run into. And of course, when you're writing your campaign, it's always great to check out this chapter, and that's going to give you a lot of ideas as well, right? And then they do have a not a campaign, but what do you call it? Like a scenario for you, right? They have like a scenario here for you as a narrator new to this book. Then you can actually, start off with this and then make up your own. I really like it. So this a million times. I really like it when they give us a starting point, a starting saga or starting scenario for us to start off with, just to kind of, get our rules underneath us and all that kind of stuff and see how the flow of the game works and all that before I start creating my own. So I like that. Give us a copy of the character sheet, which you can get for free online. And really that's about it. So if you have any questions, go ahead and throw them into the chat. And if you're watching this back, go ahead and throw it in the chat and I'll always get back to them anyway. So Jesse says, I say beast. Okay, like bestiary. Michael says, I've heard it both. I say beast, but I think best is correct. Yeah, I think it's spelt bestiary, but I say bestiary. And it seems like a lot of people I've heard say that. So I don't know. Well, at least I'm not like totally awful about it. Okay. Danny says bestiary, I guess. No A before the T, but I say beast too. Okay, well, good. So it's not just me that says bestiary. So, okay, I don't feel so bad. But yeah, it is spelled bestiary. So whatever, guys, whatever. All right, that's it for the Awaken RPG. Now, tomorrow night, I'm going to come back, and just like all the other RPGs, I'm going to give it a report card. I'm going to give it a report card just like all the other ones. This one's not, not a bad book at all. And if you're out there looking for it, the Kickstarter just ended this morning, so you can't get it on Kickstarter anymore. However, you can get it through DriveThruRPG, and then the new book is only on Kickstarter right now. It'll be coming out in the coming months, I'm sure, and we'll get to see that. So that's kind of like I'm trying to remember what it was called. I can't remember what it's called now. What was it called? Laboria, yeah, was the name of it. So it's just another like regional type book, so kind of an add-on book for it. So anyway, so yeah, it's been really cool, and I'm glad, Jacob, thank you so much for turning me on to this. It's been really great to check out something new. I love looking at new stuff. I don't want to look at the same stuff over and over again, the same exact mechanics. I'm not a fan of that. I like learning new stuff, and this one was definitely new. I love the world, and the artwork was incredible. It was a really nice experience. So I appreciate it, Jacob. I'll be sending you this copy back to you in the mail here soon. What is he saying? Scott says bestiary. Okay. Danny says, when you buy the RPG, you pronounce however you want. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. The Laborian Saga. Yeah, that's it, Jacob. Thank you. Respect my authority. All right. Thank you, Scott. I appreciate it. All right, guys. Well, we'll be back tomorrow night, 5 o'clock, same time. And we're going to do the report card for the Awaken RPG. And then next week, we got a new one starting. And I'll tell you about it tomorrow night. You tune in, you'll find out. That's right. Tune in, you'll find out tomorrow night. Thanks you so much, guys. We'll see you later. Bye.